This is the copy of the Reconstruction Act. Here's the part I want you to read. What the Reconstruction Act did was annul the state of North Carolina and 10 other states. And it said you're not allowed to be a state until you have a new constitution that Congress ratifies. Now, does that sound like government of consent of the people of North Carolina? And also they said anybody that participated in the war, you're not allowed to vote, by the way, which is a bill of attainder, which is against the Constitution. And it says once these states get this new constitution that's sent to Congress and ratified, and when said state, by a vote of its legislature elected under said constitution, so this is the new constitution, and the legislature has to make a vote, shall have adopted the amendment to the Constitution of the United States proposed by the 39th Congress and known as Article 14, the 14th Amendment, and when said article shall have become part of the Constitution of the United States, said state shall be declared entitled to representation in Congress. Whoa! North Carolina, Congress is saying you're not a state until you take our Constitution. Your legislature has to convene. The 14th Amendment must be proposed and passed by your state. And it has to become part of the Constitution of the United States before you have representation in Congress, before you can seat senators and representatives, which is what makes you a state.
Dictator.
Well, how do you, if they don't have representation and they're not really a state, how can they have passed the amendment? It says you're not a state, you're not entitled to this until you pass this, and the 14th Amendment becomes part of the U.S. Constitution. Well, we need to look at this 14th Amendment a little bit. A lot of people consider the 14th Amendment, there were 3 amendments that they said involved blacks. You had the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery, the 14th Amendment, which was purportedly giving them civil rights, and the 15th Amendment giving blacks the right to vote. You have a guy by the name of James G. Blaine who wrote this book. He was a politician. He was one of the radical Republicans in Congress. And he gave a political speech, and you can't really read it here, but this speech was made in Skowhegan, Maine in 1866. So this is before the 14th Amendment is ratified. And he's talking about what the 14th Amendment means, because a lot of people say it's to give blacks civil rights. He says, and in making this extension of citizenship, we are not confining the breadth and scope of our efforts to the Negro. It is for the white man as well. We intend to make citizenship national. This is the nationalizing of citizenship. Originally, your citizenship came from your state. You were state citizens. Now it comes from the federal government. Now, we know about nationalized health care. The government has control. We know about nationalizing of the banking, nationalizing of the auto industry, government control. Right here, they nationalized our citizenship, giving them control. And now you see why they can tell us, you have to have gay rights. You have to allow abortions to women. You cannot have prayer in school. We don't want it. But is that what the people want? If the people want it, they should be getting it. He also wrote another book called 20 Years of Congress, 1861 to 1881. Again, this is one of the radical Republicans in Congress during the war. He participated in the voting of this, and he wrote books on it. He was a lifetime politician. And I want you to look at, the 14th Amendment is to nationalize citizenship and to get rid of states' rights. He says this, as the vicious theory of states' rights had been constantly at enmity with the true spirit of nationality, here you have the two sides, states' rights and nationality, they're opposed views. As the vicious theory of states' rights had been constantly at enmity with the true spirit of nationality, the organic law, the Constitution of the Republic, should be so amended, putting in the 14th Amendment, that no standing room for the heresy of states' rights would be left. He goes on, the first section of the Constitutional Amendment, the 14th, which includes these invaluable provisions, is in fact a new charter of liberty to the citizens of the United States, is the utter destruction of the pestilent heresy of states' rights, and is the formal bestowment of nationality upon the wise federal system which was the outgrowth of our successful revolution against Great Britain. Now this guy loves the 14th Amendment. This guy loved it. And so he's talking about how great this is. It got rid of that pestilent heresy called states' rights. Now, is that what the Northern soldiers fought for? Is that what New York farm boy fought for? This is an absolute overthrow of the foundation of this country. And we're living under it today. Now, how did that affect North Carolina? Well, let's talk a little bit about, I know some people want to hear about how North Carolina, some people want to know how North Carolina left the Union. North Carolina voted to stay in the Union. We weren't going to leave. We voted to stay in the Union. We only left the Union once Abraham Lincoln, after Fort Sumter, said, we need 75,000 troops to put down this rebellion. Governor John Ellis says, I will be no party to such wicked violation of the Constitution. You'll get no troops from North Carolina. And we seceded a month later because we weren't going to participate in a violation of the Constitution. Well, what's this document right here? This document right here is a military order removing the government of North Carolina. It resulted in this, the surrender letter of the state of North Carolina. This is Governor Jonathan Worth of North Carolina writing a letter to William Woods Holden. So it's to Holden, July 1st, 1868. The surrender of the government of North Carolina in 1868. The war is over in 65. Peace is declared in 66. Why is the government surrendering in 1868? I can't read all this to you. We're basically out of time. So I'm going to skip a couple things here.
Can you come back tomorrow night?
We're going to get to that. But this is the very last sentence of this letter. It says, I surrender the office to you under what I deem military duress, without stopping, as the occasion would well justify, to comment upon the singular coincidence that the present state government is surrendered, as without legality, to him whose own official sanction but 3 years ago declared it valid. Remember, 3 years earlier, they were amending the Constitution. And now they're not. They're not even a state anymore. How many people here know 2 states called the state of North Carolina have entered the American Union? One is the 12th state, and one as the 39th state. We're operating, the government's in place now, as the 39th state of the American Union, put into place by military order 120 issued by General Canby. I say it's unconstitutional act that put it there. Yep. That's my own personal opinion.
Sounds right to me.
Okay. We also have a book called Annual Encyclopedia and Register of Important Events for 1867. This is just like a yearbook, like World Book yearbook, kind of tells all the new things that happen every year. We see this right here. We the people. Who are we the people? Who do we think we the people are? Raise your hand if you think you're a we the people.
Me.
Well, let's go through this. Let's see what Thaddeus Stevens said on the House floor. This is a radical Republican. This is the father of Reconstruction. This is the man. He's the one that did it all. Pleasant looking guy. And remember, he hates Andrew Johnson. I mean, he hates him. He's the one that had him impeached. Led all that stuff. He was from Pennsylvania. He says, though the president is commander-in-chief, Congress is his commander. And God willing, he shall obey. He and his minions shall learn that this is not a government of kings and satraps, but a government of the people. And that Congress is the people. Who?
Congress.
Congress is the people. This is the fundamental change. And this is not just a little euphemism and he's just, no. He's dead serious because he sat there and said that since we're the representatives of the people, we're the people. Federalist Paper number 78 says the representative can never substitute his will for the will of the people.
That's right.
Amen.
So this is another, he said it. This is another
Dictator.
nail in their coffin.